Why do people see no harm in having children? They do it with smiles on their faces as if it's not an act of violence. You force this other being into the world, this being that never asked to be born. You do this absurd thing because that's what you want for yourself, and that doesn't make any sense. Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami, a book that made me, a 29-year-old who's been thinking a lot about having kids, rethink motherhood entirely. Mieko Kawakami is a Japanese writer and poet from Osaka who became an overnight sensation and feminist icon after the release of this book, Breasts and Eggs, first published back in 2008. Yes, 2008. She might be seen as this hot new writer, but in Japan, they've been aware of Miko's beautiful writing skills for over a decade. Actually, most of her popular books were published at the end of the zeros, but only started getting translated into other languages 2 years ago. The book is divided in two parts, the breast parts and the eggs parts. So in the breast parts, the first part, Miko paints an intimate portrait of what working-class womanhood in Japan looks like. So you follow the journeys of three young women, the main character Natsu, her older sister Makiko, and her niece Midoriko, in a society where the odds are stacked against them, with the focus points mainly being struggles with physical imperfection and poverty. Even though I like that part, it was part 2, the eggs that blew my socks off. In part 2, the main character Natsu is now a writer, moved away from her hometown, and just has one wish. She wants to become a mother, but there are just two little problems. 1, she doesn't have a partner and has no desire for one either. And 2, she hates having sex. So now what? Miko takes you on this beautiful, heartbreaking trip of a young woman who's trying to figure out for herself if she wants to have children, and if so, what her options are as a single woman who has no desire of finding a partner. It is good to know that while Miko was hailed as a feminist icon, there were a lot of Japanese traditionalists who actually despised the book. I read an old The Guardian article that said that, I don't want to butcher his name, but said that Shintaro Ishihara, then Tokyo's governor and former novelist, called it unpleasant and intolerable. And while I was reading that part of the article, I knew exactly which moment in the book probably pushed a lot of these traditionalists over the edge. No man will ever understand the things that really matter to a woman. If you think about it, it's just obvious. But what do you mean? What matters to a woman? I mean the pain, said Rika. How much it hurts to be a woman. If you say that though, people look at you like you're throwing yourself a pity party. They'll tell you how men have a lot of pain to deal with too. But sure, who said they didn't? They are alive, aren't they? Of course they live with pain. The difference is, who's putting them through that pain? How can they make it better? Who's to blame for hurting all these men? Just think about it. They're on a pedestal from the second they're born, only they don't realize it. Whenever they need something, their moms come running. They're taught to believe that their penises make them superior and that women are just there for them to use however they see fit. Then they go out into the world where everything centers around them and their dicks, and it's women who have to make it work. At the end of the day, where is this pain that men feel coming from? In their opinion, us. It's all our fault. Whether they're unpopular, broke, jobless, whatever it is, they blame women for all their failures, all their problems. Now think about women. No matter how you see it, who's actually responsible for the majority of the pain women feel? If you think about it, how could a man and a woman ever see eye to eye? This was the moment, right? Like, this was the moment that frustrated a lot of these traditionalists. Now, the second moment I can't stop thinking about, it is also the moment that made me rethink motherhood. It's the moment where our main character, Natsu, is having a conversation with Yuriko, another woman who was conceived through an anonymous sperm donor and who is against having children. What makes you want to have a baby so badly? I don't know, I answered automatically. I don't know. Maybe there's no real reason. I just have this deep-seated need to know my child. Everyone says the same thing, Yuriko said. And I'm not just talking about artificial insemination. Everyone. They think babies are adorable. They want to try being parents. They want to see how their children will turn out. As women, they want to make full use of their bodies. They want their partner's genes to live on. Or maybe they're lonely and they want someone to look after them when they're old. Whatever the reason, it's all the same. Do you see what I mean? It's always about them. They're only thinking about themselves. They never think about the kid being born. No one gives a damn how that child is going to feel. Isn't that crazy? Once they've had a baby, most parents would do anything to shelter them from any form of pain or suffering. But here it is. The only way to actually keep your child from ever knowing pain, don't have them in the first place. You're betting that the child that you bring into this will be at least as happy as you've been, at least as fortunate as you've been, or at a minimum, that they'll be able to say they're happy they were born. But that's just people believing what they want to believe, for their own benefit. The really horrible part is that this bet isn't yours to make. You're betting with another person's life, not yours. Once you have children, you can't unhave them. I know how this sounds. You think I'm being extreme, that I'm detached from reality. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is real life. That's what I'm talking about. The pain that comes with reality. Reading this as someone who's thinking about having kids, this hit hard because the questions the character Yuriko is asking are valid questions. I think questions we should all ask ourselves when we're thinking about having kids. I find myself giving the same answers Natsu gave. I just want to meet my kid. I want to experience this miracle cut life. I want to see the type of person I can raise. I think it's gonna be cute. It's all about me. Now I get what my mom meant when she said you didn't ask to be born, so the least I can do is to make it as easy and enjoyable for you as possible. I get it now, because you can't ask your kid beforehand, like, do you want to be born? It would be great, right, if we could. If you're on TikTok, you've probably come across child-free TikTok, this side where a lot of mostly women are sharing their stories on why they've chosen not to be a mother, how happy they are with their choices, and I love it. I love that we're living in a time where, especially in the West, women are showing you that having kids doesn't have to be the default setting, and that maybe we should focus more on the question, why do you want to have kids, instead of why don't you want to have kids? Because when you think about the responsibility, it's actually more logical to not want to have kids, right? But there's this one comment that I keep seeing under these videos that I don't necessarily agree with, and it's the, if you're on the fence of having kids, that's a sign that you shouldn't have kids. Even though I get where they're coming from, because, you know, you're gambling with a life, I do feel it discourages people to really think about parenthood and what it means. You know, like it shuts the door on these important conversations you can have with people around you. Conversations that Mieko featured in this book, like the second part of Breast and Eggs, to me feels like a trip through the mind of a young woman who is on the fence of having kids. And some of it felt like I was reading my own mind. Like, I just wish I was the person who was like 100% sure that I wanted to have kids, or 100% sure that I didn't. But I think a lot of us are on the fence. And I'm not saying that this book, after reading it, that I'm not on the fence anymore. But I can say that if you're on the fence, this book will make you feel seen. A little cliche, I know.